The Empire had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. They controlled 400 star systems. They had conquered 800 species. No one in the known galaxy dared to challenge them. Supreme Commander Os stood before the great window of the Imperial Command Station. Behind him, the War Council waited in silence. Below them, the throne world spread out like a jewel of lights and towering spires. Os was tall, even for a. His gray skin was marked with the scars of 100 battles. His 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern on his face, glowed with cold intelligence. "Play the recording again," he said. The hologram flickered to life in the center of the council chamber. It showed 2 creatures standing before the Imperial ambassador. They were small, soft-skinned, with only 2 eyes and 2 arms. They stood upright on 2 legs. They wore simple clothing. They looked weak. They were called humans. The Imperial ambassador's voice filled the room. "You will submit to the Empire. You will pay tribute. You will serve. This is not a request. This is your only path to survival." One of the humans, a female with dark hair, smiled. It was a strange expression, calm, almost friendly. "We thank the Empire for this offer," she said, "but we must decline. Earth will not submit to anyone." The recording ended. The council chamber remained silent. Haina leaned forward. She was old, her gray skin faded to pale silver, but her mind was sharp as a blade. "This recording is 3 standard months old. We have sent 7 more diplomatic missions since then. The humans have refused everyone. They do not threaten. They do not bargain. They simply say no." "They are fools," said one of the younger commanders. "Perhaps," said Na, "or perhaps they are something else." Os turned from the window. "What do we know about them?" Admiral and stood. He was old like Na, a veteran of 30 campaigns. His left arm was mechanical, lost in a battle long ago. He had served the Empire his entire life. But today something troubled him. "The humans come from a single planet called Earth," he said. "It is a small world mostly covered in water. They have existed in space for only 200 years. They have no empire. They have no subject worlds. They have a small fleet, perhaps 500 ships." 500, another commander laughed. "We could destroy them with a patrol group." "Perhaps," said N. He did not laugh. "But there is something strange in the intelligence reports. The humans have had contact with the galaxy for 180 years. In that time they have been approached by many empires, the Collective, the Syndicate, the 3 Worlds Alliance. All offered them protection in exchange for submission. All were refused." "They refused everyone?" Na asked. "Everyone, and here is the strange part. After refusing, the humans did nothing. They did not build a great fleet. They did not seek allies. They simply continued as before, quiet, peaceful, as if they had no fear at all." The chamber went silent again. Os walked to the center of the room. "What are you suggesting, Admiral? That these soft creatures with their tiny fleet are a threat to the greatest empire in the galaxy?" And met his commander's eyes. "I am suggesting that we do not understand them, and what we do not understand we should approach with caution." Os laughed. It was a cold sound. "Caution? They do not need caution. We have crushed every enemy we have ever faced. These humans are not special. They are simply ignorant. They do not understand what they are facing. We will teach them." He turned to the council. "I propose we deploy the Grand Armada." The council members shifted in their seats. The Grand Armada had not been assembled in 3,000 years. It was the full military might of the Empire. 50,000 warships, 10 million soldiers, enough firepower to burn 100 worlds to ash. "Is that not excessive?" Na asked. "For one small planet?" "It is not about this one planet," Os said. "It is about the message. Other species are watching. If we allow these humans to refuse us without consequence, others will grow bold. We must show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the. We will make an example of Earth that no one will ever forget." The council voted. The decision was unanimous. 3 days later, Oz stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. Around him, the Grand Armada assembled. Ship after ship emerged from hyperspace. Battleships, carriers, destroyers, troop transports. The fleet was so large that it took 6 hours for all the ships to arrive. Admiral N stood beside his commander, watching the display screens fill with green dots representing their forces. "The full armada is assembled," he reported. 50,247 ships, all crews report ready. Oz smiled. "Has there ever been a more beautiful sight?" "It is impressive," and admitted, "but I still have concerns." "You worry too much, old friend." "I worry just enough. The humans know we are coming. Our scouts reported that they detected our preparations, yet they have made no move to flee. They have sent no messages begging for mercy. They simply wait. Because they are frozen with fear. When they see our armada, they will finally understand. They will surrender before we fire a single shot." And was not so sure. In his long career, he had learned one important lesson. The enemies who showed no fear were either stupid or dangerous. The humans did not seem stupid. But he kept his thoughts to himself. The Empire had decided. There was no turning back now. Oz raised his hand. On every ship in the Armada, crews watched their commander. "Warriors of the Empire," he announced, his voice broadcast to all 50,000 ships. "Today, we bring the light of civilization to another dark corner of the galaxy. These humans have foolishly refused our generous offer of submission. They will learn the cost of their pride. When we are finished, every species in the galaxy will remember this day. They will remember what happens to those who say no to the Empire. Set course for the human world, for glory." The Armada cheered. 50,000 ships engaged their hyperspace drives. The stars stretched into lines of light, and the greatest fleet ever assembled vanished into the void, heading for a small blue planet called Earth. On the throne world below, the citizens celebrated. The news networks declared the war already won. Historians prepared to record another glorious victory for the Empire. No one doubted the outcome. No one imagined that the humans might have been waiting for this exact moment. No one suspected that the soft, weak creatures on their small planet had been preparing for 150 years. The Empire was about to learn a lesson that would change the galaxy forever. The alarm woke General Park Dongwu at 3 in the morning. He had been expecting it for 20 years. He dressed quickly and took the underground train to the United Defense Command Center in Seoul. The facility was buried deep beneath the old city, protected by 200 meters of rock and reinforced steel. As he walked through the corridors, he saw officers running to their stations. Everyone moved with purpose. There was no panic. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Captain Hana met him at the main command room door. She was young, only 32, but she was the sharpest intelligence officer Park had ever worked with. Her calm eyes showed no fear. "How many?" Park asked. "Our early warning satellites are still counting, sir. Current estimate is over 50,000 ships." Park stopped walking. 50,000. Even he needed a moment to process that number. "Show me." The command room was a massive circular space filled with screens and holographic displays. 50 officers sat at stations around the room. In the center, a three-dimensional map of the solar system glowed with light. At the edge of the map, a mass of red dots was approaching. There were so many dots that they formed a solid red cloud. "They exited hyperspace 2 hours ago at the edge of the system," Captain reported. "They are moving at standard approach speed. Estimated arrival at Earth orbit in 36 hours. Lieutenant Sung looked up from his station. He was the team's communications specialist, a quiet man who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. "Sir, I've been intercepting their communications. They're not even encrypted. They're broadcasting on open channels." "What are they saying?" His expression was strange, almost amused. "They're celebrating, sir. They're talking about the victory feast they'll have after we surrender. Some commanders are arguing about who will get the best land on Earth. One admiral is planning to keep humans as servants in his household." The room went quiet. Then someone laughed, then another. Soon, half the command room was laughing. Park did not laugh. He understood why his people found it funny, but he also understood the danger. Overconfidence was a weakness on both sides. "Enough," he said. The room went silent. "What they think doesn't matter. What matters is what we do. Captain, your assessment." Walked to the central display and zoomed in on the approaching fleet. They follow the same pattern in every war. They use overwhelming numbers to frighten their enemies into surrender. Their ships are powerful, but their tactics are old. They haven't faced a real challenge in 3,000 years. She pointed to the formation. "Look at how they're arranged. Perfect lines, perfect spacing. It's beautiful like a parade. It's designed to impress, not to fight." Their weapons: energy-based, plasma cannons and particle beams. Very destructive, but they require direct line of sight. Their shields are designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks, standard for most species in the galaxy. Park nodded. "And their weaknesses?" Smiled slightly. "Everything about them is designed for energy warfare. They have never faced an enemy who thinks differently. They have never faced us." Park turned to the room. "Activate Protocol Fortress, full deployment." Throughout the solar system, things began to wake up. On Mars, hidden doors opened in the sides of mountains. Massive platforms rolled out on tracks and aimed their barrels at the sky. Each gun was 3 kilometers long. Each could fire a solid metal slug at 3% of the speed of light. In the asteroid belt, rocks that had drifted silently for decades suddenly came alive. They were not rocks at all. They were weapons platforms disguised in waiting. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Around Jupiter, Saturn, and the outer planets, satellites that had pretended to be scientific stations revealed their true nature. They were part of an early warning and targeting network that could track every ship in the system and share that information instantly. And on Earth's moon, the greatest secret of all remained hidden. It would only be used if everything else failed. Park watched the displays as green dots appeared across the solar system map. Defense platforms coming online. Communication networks activating. The full power of 150 years of preparation finally revealed. "All systems reporting ready," an officer announced. Captain stood beside Park. "Sir, may I ask a question?" "Of course." "I've read the history. I know we started preparing after first contact, but I've always wondered, why didn't we try to make allies? Why didn't we join one of the other powers for protection?" Park was quiet for a long moment. He stared at the red cloud of enemy ships on the display. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with old memories. "I was a young officer when we first learned about the galaxy. I remember the excitement. We thought we would find friends out there, partners, maybe even teachers who could help us grow." He shook his head. "Instead, we found empires. Everywhere we looked, we found strong species ruling over weak ones. We found slavery with different names. We found a galaxy where might made right and kindness was seen as weakness." He turned to face. "We sent diplomatic teams to study the major powers. Do you know what they learned? In 12,000 years of galactic history, not one conquered species has ever been freed. Not one empire has ever shown mercy. Once you submit, you stay submitted forever. So we decided not to submit. We decided to prepare, quietly, secretly. We pretended to be weak and harmless. We let the galaxy think we were just another soft species waiting to be conquered, and all the while we built. We studied every weapon, every tactic, every strategy used in the last 10,000 years of galactic warfare, and we developed counters for all of them." Lieutenant interrupted. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the flagship. They're demanding our immediate surrender. Put it on screen. A face appeared, gray skin, 4 eyes, the look of absolute confidence. Humans of Earth, I am Supreme Commander of the Empire. You have seen our fleet. You know you cannot resist. Surrender now and your people will be allowed to serve the Empire. Resist and you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to respond. The transmission ended. The command room waited in silence. Park walked to the communication station. Lieutenant, send the following message. No encryption. Let them hear it clearly. His fingers hovered over his controls. Ready, sir. Park straightened his uniform. He thought about his grandfather, who had helped design the first defense platforms. He thought about his daughter, who was serving on one of those platforms right now. He thought about every human who had worked and sacrificed to reach this moment. Message as follows, he said. You are entering restricted space. Turn back. The message was sent. The entire command room held its breath. On the flagship, Supreme Commander Os received the human response. He read it 3 times. Then he laughed so hard that tears ran from his 4 eyes. Turn back, he said to his officers. 3 words, that is their response to 50,000 warships. He wiped his eyes. These creatures are insane. All ships maintain course. We will crush them in 36 hours. The Armada continued forward, and on Earth, General Park watched the red dots move closer. He was not laughing, he was waiting. The first battle for Earth was about to begin. The Armada crossed the orbit of Mars in perfect formation. 50,000 ships moved as one, their energy shields glowing faintly against the darkness of space. It was a sight that had terrified 800 species into submission. Supreme Commander Os expected it to work again. He stood on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, watching the distant blue dot of Earth grow larger on his screens. Time to weapons range. 4 hours, Supreme Commander, his tactical officer replied. Any response from the humans? Nothing since their ridiculous message, sir. Our scouts report some activity in the asteroid belt, but nothing significant. A few hundred small objects. Os dismissed this with a wave of his hand. Mining equipment, probably. These primitives are probably still trying to decide whether to flee or surrender. Admiral and stood at the edge of the bridge watching the displays. He had been silent for hours. Something was wrong. He could feel it. After 30 campaigns, he had learned to trust his instincts. Sir, he said quietly, I request permission to deploy our advanced scouts further ahead. Os looked annoyed. For what purpose? We already know what is ahead. Nothing. A defenseless planet full of soft creatures. Humor an old warrior, sir. Let me send 50 ships ahead. If there is nothing, we lose nothing. If there is something, we will know. Os sighed. Fine, send your scouts. But when they report nothing, you will buy me a drink on the human world. And sent the order. 50 destroyers accelerated ahead of the main fleet. They spread out in a search pattern, sensors at maximum power. For 20 minutes, they found nothing. Then they crossed an invisible line between Mars and Jupiter. The first destroyer exploded so suddenly that its crew had no time to scream. One moment it was there. The next moment it was a cloud of fire and metal. The second destroyer was hit 2 seconds later. Then the third. Then 10 more. On the Eternal Conquest, alarms screamed. The tactical display lit up with warning signals. Report, Os shouted. We're under attack. Something is hitting our scouts. We can't see. The tactical officer stopped. His face went pale. Supreme Commander, I'm reading thousands of projectile signatures. They're coming from the asteroid belt. Os stared at the screen. Red dots appeared everywhere. Not hundreds, thousands. They were moving at impossible speeds, faster than anything they had ever seen. In the Defense Command Center on Earth, Weapons Master Sung Min smiled grimly. He had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. 20 years of calculations, every asteroid mapped, every trajectory planned. Now it was time. Phase 1 have fired, he reported. Impact in 30 seconds. General Park watched the display. How many platforms? 4,000, sir. Each platform carries 12 guns. Each gun fires once every 10 seconds. Paused. That's 48,000 rounds per minute, sir. We're about to make it rain. The first wave of slugs hit the advance force. These were not normal weapons. Each slug was a solid tungsten rod, 1 meter long, accelerating to 3% of light speed. At that velocity, they hit with the force of small nuclear bombs. Shields were designed to absorb energy. Plasma, particle beams, lasers. Their shields could handle all of these. But a solid object moving at near light speed was different. The slugs punched through shields like paper. Ships that had survived 100 battles were torn apart in seconds. In the first 5 minutes, Earth destroyed 3,000 ships. Supreme Commander Os could not believe what he was seeing. His tactical display was filled with red markers indicating destroyed vessels. The attack was coming from everywhere, from asteroids, from moons, from objects that had seemed dead and harmless. "Return fire," he screamed. "All ships return fire." The fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons blazed. Particle beams cut through space. They hit hundreds of asteroids, destroying many of the hidden platforms. But for every platform they destroyed, 10 more kept firing. Admiral and reached the bridge. His face was calm, but his voice was urgent. "Sir, we need to retreat. This is a trap. The humans have turned this entire system into a killing ground." "Retreat, do not retreat." "Sir, look at the numbers," and pointed at the display. "We have lost 8,000 ships in 1 hour. We have not damaged their planet. We have not even reached their planet. If we continue, we will lose everything." Os turned on his admiral with fury in his 4 eyes. "We have 42,000 ships remaining. That is still enough to conquer 100 worlds. We push forward. We will accept losses, but we will not turn back." He gave the order. The Armada accelerated, trying to break through the wall of fire. In Seoul, Captain tracked the enemy's movement. "They're not retreating, sir. They're trying to push through." General Park nodded. "Then activate Phase 2. Typed in the command codes. Phase 2 activated. Throughout the battle space, small objects that had drifted unnoticed among the debris suddenly came alive. They were stealth drones, each no larger than a person. Each carried a small antimatter warhead. They had been sleeping in space for decades, waiting for this exact moment. The drones detected the ships and moved toward them. They were too small to appear on most sensors. They looked like debris, like broken pieces of destroyed ships. By the time they noticed them, it was too late. The first drone reached a carrier and attached itself to the hull. 5 seconds later, it detonated. The antimatter reaction was small but incredibly powerful. It burned through the carrier's armor and reached the reactor. The carrier exploded from within. Then another, and another. Ships began dying all across the formation. On the Eternal Conquest, panic was spreading. Officers shouted reports of ships exploding without warning. Some crews abandoned their posts and tried to flee. The perfect formation that had looked so beautiful was falling apart. Weapons Master launched the third wave, deploying kinetic interceptors. These were different weapons, smart missiles that could adjust their course. They targeted the command ships, the biggest and most important vessels in the fleet. One by one, the flagships began to fall. Admiral and watched the destruction with horror. In 3 hours of battle, they had lost 30,000 ships. 30,000. They had not landed a single soldier on Earth. They had not damaged a single human city. They had done nothing except die. "Sir," he said one more time, "we must retreat. If we stay, we die, all of us." Supreme Commander Os stood in the center of his bridge. Around him, his officers waited. The display showed the destruction of his fleet in real time. Red lights everywhere. Ships vanishing from the grid. For the first time in his life, Oz felt something he did not recognize. Fear. All ships, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Fall back to the edge of the system. We will regroup in. He never finished the sentence. A slug hit the Eternal Conquest's bridge at 20,000 kilometers per second. Supreme Commander Oz and his entire command staff died instantly. The greatest flagship of the Empire became a burning tomb drifting through space. Admiral and felt the ship shake as the bridge section was destroyed. Emergency systems kicked in. He was alive, but his commander was gone. He was in charge now. And he had 15,000 ships left from a fleet of 50,000. The humans had not even used their main fleet yet. And looked at the distant blue planet on his screen. What kind of creatures lived there? What kind of species could do this? He did not know, but he was about to find out. Admiral and took command of the shattered armada from the battleship Iron Resolve. It was one of the few command ships still functioning. Around him, the survivors of the greatest fleet in history drifted in confusion and fear. 15,000 ships remained. Many were damaged. Many had lost their commanders. The perfect formation that had entered this system was gone. Now they were scattered debris, hunted prey trying to survive. All ships report to my command channel and broadcast. Form defensive clusters. Protect each other. We need to regroup. A young officer approached him. Admiral, what are your orders? Do we retreat? And thought carefully. Retreating through the asteroid belt meant passing through the same kill zone that had destroyed 35,000 of their ships. The humans had turned the space between planets into a death trap. Going back might kill them all. We cannot retreat through the belt, he said. We must go forward. If we can reach Earth and threaten their cities, they might negotiate. It was a desperate plan, but desperate was all they had left. All ships, maximum speed toward Earth. We push through whatever they send at us. The remaining fleet accelerated. They abandoned formation and simply ran toward the blue planet. It was not honorable. It was not the way, but it was the only chance they had. In Seoul, General Park watched the enemy movement with interest. They're making a run for Earth. Captain nodded. They've lost their commander. They're scared, but they're still dangerous. 15,000 ships can do a lot of damage if they reach orbit. Then we don't let them reach orbit. Park turned to his communications officer. Lieutenant, signal the fleet. It's time. From behind Earth's moon, ships began to emerge. Human ships. They were smaller than vessels, sleeker and faster. There were only 300 of them, but they were not like anything they had ever seen. Commander Hoon sat in the captain's chair of the assault carrier Swift Justice. He was 45 years old and had spent 30 of those years training for this day. His crew was the best in the fleet. His ship was a weapon designed for one purpose, ending threats to Earth. All ships, this is Commander, our orders are to stop the enemy fleet. But I want to make something clear. We are not here to destroy them. We are here to defeat them. There's a difference. His tactical officer looked confused. Sir, these aliens came here to enslave us. They deserve to lose, but they don't all deserve to die. We're going to give them a chance to surrender, and if they take that chance, we're going to let them live. He paused. That's what makes us different from them. That's what makes us human. The human fleet accelerated toward the approaching ships. Admiral and saw the human vessels on his display. 300 ships against 15,000. The numbers should have given him hope, but after what he had witnessed today, numbers meant nothing. What are those ships? He asked. His sensor officer studied the readings. Unknown design, Admiral. They're much smaller than our vessels, but their energy signatures are strange. I can't get a clear reading on their weapons or shields. Hail them, let's see what they want. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was Commander. He looked calm, almost relaxed, like he was not facing 15,000 warships. Fleet, this is Commander Hoon of Earth Defense. Your commander is dead. Your fleet is broken. You cannot win this battle. I am offering you a chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and shields. You will be taken prisoner, but you will be treated fairly. This is a one-time offer." The bridge crew of the Iron Resolve looked at their admiral. Some showed anger at the insult. Some showed fear. Some showed something else, hope. Considered the offer. In 12,000 years of history, surrender meant slavery. It meant humiliation. It meant death of honor, if not death of body. No commander had ever surrendered. It was unthinkable. But then, no fleet had ever faced anything like this. "Human commander," he said slowly, "what guarantee do I have that my crews will be treated fairly?" Seemed surprised by the question. "You have my word, and you have the word of Earth's government. We are not like you. We don't enslave our enemies. We don't torture prisoners. If you surrender, your people will be fed, given medical care, and eventually return to your empire. That is our way." "Your way," and almost laughed. "In the entire galaxy, no one has ever shown mercy to the defeated." "Then the galaxy has a lot to learn from us." And looked at his crew. He thought about the 35,000 ships that had been destroyed. He thought about the crews of those ships, sons and daughters of the Empire, all dead because their leaders believed they could never lose. He thought about his own life. He could order an attack and die with honor, or he could try something that no had ever done. "Human commander, I need time to consult with my remaining captains." "You have 10 minutes, Admiral." The screen went dark, and turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to all surviving ships. I need to speak to every captain who can hear me." For the next 8 minutes, and did something unprecedented. He asked his officers for their opinions. He listened to their fears. He heard their arguments. Some wanted to fight to the death. Some wanted to surrender. Some simply wanted to go home. In the end, the choice was his. "Human commander," he said when the screen came back to life, "I am Admiral N. I am the highest-ranking survivor of this fleet. I am prepared to discuss terms." On the Swift Justice, Commander allowed himself a small smile. "A wise decision, Admiral. Power down your weapons. My ships will escort you to a holding area near Earth's moon. Do not deviate from the course we provide. Any ship that attempts to attack will be destroyed. Do you understand?" "I understand." "Then welcome to Earth space, Admiral. Things work differently here." The next 6 hours were unlike anything N had ever experienced. Human ships surrounded his fleet, but they did not attack. They guided the vessels to a large area of space near Earth's moon. They sent medical ships to treat the wounded. They sent supply vessels with food and water. When N's ship docked at a human station, he was not thrown in a cell. He was taken to a comfortable room with a window looking out at Earth. A human female came to see him. She was small, with kind eyes and a calm voice. "Admiral N, I am Dr. Li Bai. I am Earth's chief diplomat. I want to thank you for choosing peace." And stared at her. "Thank me, I lost. I surrendered. In my culture, I should be executed for this failure." "In your culture, perhaps, not in ours. You saved the lives of your remaining crews. You prevented more death. That takes courage." "Courage?" and laughed bitterly. "Your people destroyed 35,000 of our ships in a single day. You killed millions of our warriors, and you call my surrender courage." Dr. Li sat down across from him. Her expression was serious but not cruel. "We killed your warriors because they came to enslave us. We defended ourselves, but we took no joy in it. Every life lost today was a tragedy on both sides." And was silent for a long moment. He had conquered worlds. He had burned cities. He had never once thought of his enemies as equals deserving of mercy. But these humans, who had just won the greatest military victory in galactic history, were treating him with respect. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why didn't you destroy us all? You had the power." Dr. Li looked out the window at Earth below. "Because power is not the point, Admiral. We fought to protect our home and our freedom. We achieved that. Killing more of your people would not make us safer. It would only make us cruel." She turned back to face him. "We have a message for your emperor. We want you to deliver it personally. Can you do that?" And nodded slowly. "What is the message?" "It's simple. We want peace. We will not attack your empire. We will not try to conquer your worlds. All we ask is that you leave us alone. Recognize our space as sovereign. Never come here with weapons again. Do that and we can be neighbors, maybe even friends someday." And thought about the emperor. He thought about the council. He thought about the pride of the empire. "They will never accept peace from a species they tried to conquer," he said. "It would be seen as weakness." Dr. Lee smiled slightly. "Then help them see it as wisdom instead. You've seen what we can do, Admiral. Help them understand that wisdom is all that can save them now." She stood and walked toward the door. "You'll be treated well here. When you're ready, we'll give you a ship and let you go home. Think about what I've said." She left and sat alone in the room, staring at the blue planet below. For the first time in his long life, he wondered if everything he had been taught was wrong. The throne room of the empire had not seen such chaos in 3,000 years. Advisors shouted at each other. Generals blamed admirals. Politicians blamed generals. And at the center of it all, the emperor sat on his ancient throne, silent and still. Admiral and stood before him, the only survivor of the Grand Armada's command staff. He had traveled for 3 weeks to reach the throne world. Every day of that journey, he had thought about what he would say. 50,000 ships, the emperor finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but it silenced the entire room. "The greatest fleet in our history, and you return with 5,000 broken vessels and a message from the humans asking for peace." "Yes, Your Majesty." "Explain to me how this happened. Explain how a species that has existed in space for only 200 years destroyed an empire that has ruled for 12,000. And took a deep breath. "The humans were not what we expected, Your Majesty. They knew we were coming. They had been preparing for over a century. They turned their entire star system into a weapon. Our shields, our tactics, our strategies, none of it worked against them." A general stepped forward. "This is impossible. Our technology is superior. Our warriors are superior. You must have made a mistake. You must have failed somehow." "I failed in nothing except underestimating my enemy," and replied calmly. "The humans studied every war in galactic history. They learned every tactic. They built weapons we have never seen, solid projectiles moving at near-light speed, weapons against which our energy shields are useless. They planned for decades, and when we came, they were ready." The emperor leaned forward. "You say they were ready, but they had only a few hundred warships. How did a few hundred ships defeat 50,000? They did not use their ships until the battle was almost over. They used hidden platforms in asteroids and moons. They used stealth weapons that attached to our hulls and exploded from within. By the time their actual fleet engaged us, we had already lost most of our force." "And their fleet, what are their ships capable of?" And paused. This was the part that still haunted him. "Your Majesty, their fleet barely participated in the battle. They used it to escort our surrender. I believe they were holding it in reserve." "In reserve for what?" "In case we fought harder, in case our defeat was not complete enough." And met the emperor's eyes. "Your Majesty, I have studied the intelligence we gathered. The humans have weapons they did not use, more powerful weapons. They held back." The throne room went silent. A spoke up. "If they are so powerful, why did they not destroy us completely? Why did they let 5,000 ships return?" "Because they do not want war," and said. "They want to be left alone. They let us go so that we would deliver their message. They showed us their strength so that we would understand. They are giving us a choice." The emperor stood. He walked slowly down the steps from his throne until he stood directly in front of him. His 4 eyes studied the admiral with cold intensity. You speak as if you admire these creatures. I respect them, Your Majesty. They defended their home with courage and skill, and when they won, they showed mercy. In my entire life, I have never seen a victor show mercy to the defeated. It is not the galactic way. It is not the way. Perhaps that is the problem, Your Majesty. The words hung in the air. Several gasped. To question the way in front of the Emperor was dangerous, but and had watched 35,000 ships burn. He had nothing left to fear. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back to his throne. "Leave us," he commanded, "all of you except the Admiral." The generals and advisors filed out. The great doors closed. The Emperor and N were alone. "Tell me truly, Admiral, can we defeat them? If we rebuild our fleet, gather more ships, attack again, can we win?" And answered honestly, "No, Your Majesty, not in 100 years, not in 1,000. The humans think differently than we do. They adapt, they plan, they prepare for threats before they arrive. If we attack again, they will be even more ready. We will lose even more." "Then what would you have me do? Accept peace from a species we tried to conquer. Show the galaxy that they can be defeated." The galaxy already knows we can be defeated. The news has spread to every system. Every species we have ever conquered is watching to see what we do next. The Emperor's hands tightened on his throne. And what do you think they expect? They expect us to refuse. They expect us to fight until we destroy ourselves. That is what empires do. And what do you suggest instead? And thought about Dr. Lee's words. He thought about the blue planet called Earth. He thought about a species that had every reason to hate but chose mercy instead. "I suggest we surprise them, Your Majesty. I suggest we accept peace, not because we are weak, but because we are wise enough to recognize when fighting will only bring ruin." The next day, a message was sent to Earth. The Emperor of the Empire formally recognized Earth's sovereignty. Ships would never enter human space without permission. The war was over. 6 months later, General Park stood on a hill outside Seoul, watching the sun set over the city. The sky was filled with colors, orange and pink and gold. It was peaceful, beautiful, just like any other evening on Earth. Captain approached and stood beside him. "The last ships left the system today. They actually honored the treaty." "I'm not surprised, and is an honorable officer. I think he meant what he said. The news networks are calling this the greatest victory in human history. They're calling you a hero." Park shook his head. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a soldier who did his job. The heroes are the people who built those defense platforms, the engineers, the scientists, the workers who spent decades preparing for a war they hoped would never come." Was quiet for a moment. "Do you think they'll come back, or someone else?" "Probably. The galaxy is full of empires. Eventually, one of them will test us again." Park looked up at the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. "But they'll learn the same lesson. Earth is not an easy target. We don't look for fights. But when someone brings a fight to us, we finish it." "And then what, after we finish it?" "And then we offer them peace, because that's who we are." Across the galaxy, the story of Earth's victory spread from system to system. Conquered species heard about the small blue planet that had destroyed the mightiest armada ever assembled. They heard about the humans who fought like demons but showed mercy like saints. On a prison world in the outer territories, slaves whispered about Earth while they worked. On a colony under imperial rule, children drew pictures of human ships in secret. On a dozen worlds, resistance movements that had been crushed for generations began to stir again. The Empire still stood. It still ruled 400 star systems, but something had changed. For the first time in 12,000 years, the subjects of the Empire believed that the Empire could fall. And far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, humans went back to their normal lives. They worked and played and loved and argued. They did not think of themselves as special. They did not know that they had given the galaxy something it had not had in thousands of years. Hoping. In his small office at Defense Command, General Park read the final reports and filed them away. The battle for Earth was over, but he knew it was just the beginning of something larger. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as something new. A species that could fight like monsters and forgive like friends. A species that would never start a war but would always finish one. A species that believed in something the galaxy had forgotten. That mercy was stronger than cruelty. That peace was better than conquest. That even the most bitter enemies could become something else, if given the chance. The galaxy was watching now, and Earth was ready to show them a different way.